I have this video from Willy, brother, called Top 10 Reasons Why After 20 Years, Classic is still a top MMO. And you can see every time they launch Classic servers again, they reset it, they do whatever, people are here playing the game. So something is still cool. I don't think that nostalgia plays a role, of course, but I don't think that nostalgia is so strong that thousands of people keep logging in again. It is because the game has to be good at some level, right? So let's see what Willy has to say in here.
Warcraft is a version of the game that people have been coming back to now for closing in on 2 decades. Vanilla World of Warcraft is a version of the game that people have been coming back to now for closing in on 2 decades. At this point, it's proven itself as a truly timeless game for so many of us around the entire world. It was the version of WoW that started off this crazy journey so many years ago, and on its re-release in 2019, it once again dominated the whole gaming market for a second time.
That
and
was
whether you
the moment
compare
I
Vanilla
started
to
playing.
its other options within the MMO genre, or just to other WoW expansions, it just does certain things differently. Vanilla was and still is really a unique experience, but what exactly sets it apart? What are the main things that this version of World of Warcraft isn't shy to do, which typically games these days are? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about today. 10 of the ways which Vanilla plays that make it, well, the vanilla World of Warcraft experience that we know and love. I did try to put these in order as well, but each one, although not as gameplay impacting as the next, does seem important to the overall pacing and just the feel of the game. So with that said, these for me are the top 10 things that make vanilla vanilla. When you first arrive upon the grand world of Azeroth, you're going to be doing a lot of running about to hand in quests, to get to new zones, pick up flight paths and so on. Some classes are lucky enough to get hold of a movement speed ability early on, such as Aspect of the Cheetah, Ghost Wolf or Travel Form, but for
I hope I get my sprints here soon. I don't know what is the level, but I hope I get it, because walking around like this is stupid as fuck, dude.
every class in the game, you need to wait all the way until level 40 before you can buy a proper mount and start riding around at an impressive
Which is also a pain in the ass. I remember that in other versions of the game, they make you like at level 20, I believe, you can already get a mount. And in retail WoW, I believe in level 10 you get a mount, and brother, it is insanely better. Walking around everywhere for 40 fucking levels is a pain in the ass. There are classes like the shaman that get the wolf form, and that is cool. But with the rogue, what will I get? The sprint is the only bullshit that I will get until I get the mount. This will be a pain in the ass, bro.
bonus 60% speed. And your first mount is a big investment. I mean, unless you're a warlock or a
That is another thing. It is not only on level 40, but probably in a lot. Another motherfucker! Bro! Leave me alone, dude! Ah, brother. I am going to die in this shit. And there is another motherfucker. Fuck!
Paladin, you get them for free, but for everyone else it's a big investment. I don't know about you, but oftentimes after I've just
I was gonna say that it is gold investment, or I believe I said it. That motherfucker made me mad.
bought a mount on a character, I still catch myself running about because I just get so used to it. And while some of those journeys you have to do on foot are super long, such as the first trip from the wetlands up to Arathi Highlands on Alliance, or you know, just going anywhere in the Barrens it feels like, it gives the world that scope of size which it's famous for. And your first mount will also set you back 90 gold or so after your faction discounts. And if you haven't been particularly careful with your gold up to level 40, you probably won't even be able to afford it for some time. I'd say on a regular playthrough on a first character on a fresh server, most people are getting their mounts somewhere between level 44 to 46. That wouldn't be unreasonable. To really be able to get it at 40, you have to have it in mind from the beginning and work towards it, use the auction house, send things to your bank vault and so on. And that's even before we get to level 60, where your epic mount is going to set you back a crazy 1000 gold. But the thing is, the game isn't afraid to have you run a
I remember that in Classic 2019, I was a warlock, so I got my 40 mount for free, of course. And then at level 60, I didn't when I started playing or when I went to do the 60 quests, not much people were doing it and you needed a party or whatever. I never bought the 1000 gold, I believe, because it was too much money. Then I managed to get my 60 mount at some point with the quest for the warlock. But I never bought the 1000 gold because it was too much gold. It was like, brother, 1000 gold for this shit. Fuck that. And now that I am playing a rogue, I don't know what will happen, brother.
Around on foot for ages. I mean, experience-wise, level 37 is about a third of the way to 60, and 44 is about halfway. So just on experience alone, you can tell how much of the game you're going to be running for. But I think that time you spend on foot running around the world is super important for vanilla, for the world building, for the importance on planning where you're going to go, for PvP and so much more. And so that is why I think it was worth a mention here. Next up is something that we will all run across during our time playing WoW, and those are of course item upgrades. In vanilla you start with essentially nothing and have to work your way up from great quality trash items all the way to epics. And the quest rewards and upgrades in vanilla can feel like a big deal simply because there's such a massive disparity.
This is true, brother, and in comparison with retail, Classic has this more nailed down, but it is also because in retail, let's be honest guys, in retail leveling doesn't matter. Which to me it is good because I hate leveling, but I know that for a lot of people leveling is the game, right? So I completely understand that. Leveling is the game for a lot of people. So in Classic WoW, you have like, there are items that you get from quests that are like your best in a slot for 20 levels. For example, I always play Horde, so I don't know examples for the Alliance. But the Staff of Orgrimmar or something that you get from Thrall, there is a quest, a chain quest that you do, that at the end, Thrall gives you to choose between 3 weapons. Those weapons are insane, brother. There is also another quest that you get, I believe it is the Crescent Staff, from you get it in Thunderblood for killing stuff in the Wailing Caverns. That stuff is insane. And it is from a quest, right? Getting cool items from quests is cool. I believe that makes a good game. This doesn't happen in retail WoW. Like quest gear sucks dick at every point in the game. Even in end game, it is non-existent, right?
Between the power level of different items that you are rewarded. I mean, for example, this quest gives you a cloth chest with strength on as a reward. By the way, this is from quite a long quest chain that has you going all around the world. Or maybe you get a plate item with a bunch of spirit on. You kind of ask yourselves, what exactly were the devs thinking here? And whenever I say this, I always hear somebody saying that the devs wanted you to be able to distinguish between the good and bad items. And man, did they go all out on bad items, so you really get to see them a lot. I mean, to be fair, Spirit is actually a half-decent stat when you're leveling early game, but it does fall off unless you're a class which really benefits.
I always thought about that, like nobody cares about a spirit. Some people say, no, priests care about a spirit or whatever because they have the talent that converts a spirit to damage. I don't know, bro. I don't know. A spirit is kind of a pointless stat, bro.
It's from it, such as a Shadow Priest. Then again, in a sea of items with highly questionable stats for flavor, there are also some massive upgrades which you will equip as soon as possible, and you'll probably keep them on for about 20 levels or so. Think of the Seal of Rin from the long quest chain on Alliance, the Whirlwind Axe from the Warrior exclusive quest, or the Rune of the Guard Captain from that Horde quest in the Hinterlands. Going out of your way for those big quest rewards is most definitely worth it in vanilla, and you really feel the power of your upgrades when your abilities start hitting that much bit more. And having gone on that journey to get them, instead of just going to the auction house and pressing buy, makes them feel even more satisfying to get.
That is true. That is true. When you get an item for a long quest chain, that is awesome, brother. Like the examples I was using earlier. It is awesome when you get an item from a long quest chain and you get invested in the... And even that I don't care about questing and leveling and all that stuff. When you get invested in the quest line, like that Thrall one, the first time you do it, like trying to debunk the whole element of orc traders and orc warlocks that are making the stuff under Orgrimmar in the Rage Fire Chasm. That whole storyline is fucking awesome, dude. So you get invested in that, and at the end you get an item that you are actually going to use for a long time, and it is a good item, brother. That is really cool, and yes, but is this unique to WoW? I believe that there must be other games out there that give you that, right? There must be, there has to be other games out there that give you exactly that. I don't know if this is unique to Classic WoW, but it is definitely something cool that Classic WoW has, for sure. And in comparison to Retail WoW, that doesn't have that.
And this trend of items being massive upgrades definitely continues at endgame too, with certain items being constantly in high demand, such as Ring of Ecuria, Onslaught Girdle, Chromatically Tempered Sword, Drakefang Talisman, and so many more. Huge item upgrades are a big part of vanilla, and you really feel when you get one. Next up is regarding classes, and specifically those little things that each class has, which, although they tend to rarely be useful, are small bonuses which make them what they are. I'm talking about things such as water breathing or walking on the Shaman, detect invisibility on Warlock, divine intervention on Paladin, or eagle eye on Hunter. Quite a few of these flavor type abilities were just ideas that were had during earlier stages of World of Warcraft.
Which, let's be honest, are useless abilities in the majority of the time. They are useless abilities. They are flavor and they are role playing and all of that, but the majority of the time they are just fucking useless abilities. Let's be honest in here, guys.
Development, but were left in the game because they added that little extra bit to the feel of each class within the game. And understanding these niche abilities and knowing how they can fit in your class's total toolkit can absolutely make a difference. When I'm playing a Shaman, I always ensure I have a stack of each reagent so I can water walking or breathing. There's plenty of underwater quests. Detect invisibility on the Warlock can be used to see enemy patrols before they end up chain pulling and causing a disaster.
Bro, where is a motherfucker that can repair in here? I am sorry, guys. I never play Alliance. I am a Horde player. I am playing Alliance right now because people wanted for me to play Alliance. And I don't know where the fuck it is a motherfucker in here that can repair.
Faster in dungeons such as Diamond West. Divine Intervention is a good last resort when a wipe is occurring so you can save a healer and begin resurrecting. And Eagle Eye on a Hunter is super useful for finding patrolling mobs or rare spawns within a zone. I mean, speaking of unique class abilities, you can even change your character's language to speak in their native tongue instead of the common languages everyone can understand. Someone out there needs to be mad enough to do a Night Elf playthrough where they only speak Darnassian, and every time they want to talk, somebody has to translate for them. Over time in WoW, Blizzard would gradually prune many of these abilities out of your spellbook as they were deemed unnecessary clutter, and then in more recent expansions they've started to add them back in again because they realized actually they're pretty cool. But at the start in vanilla, these small extra additions did feel as though they made a difference. Next, I want to talk about the open world nature of vanilla World of Warcraft. Whilst it's not by any means a full sandbox MMO insofar as you can really choose your path at all times and build anything anywhere, it certainly has a lot more choice than the expansions which follow it. You can definitely travel to areas which are high level or go into enemy territory. It's just the case the game will throw a skull level enemy at you that's going to 2-tap you, at which point you'll probably realize that you're not.
Which for a lot of people is cool because it gives you a sense of progression. People hate level scaling in retail because of that, because they say it removes that sense of danger and progression. Though, oh, I can go here until I get some more level or some more gear, and then I can go. Like looking at, I don't know, at Abomination at early levels was insane when I played for the first time. I need one hit in what shot you, and you always wanted to grow stronger to go there and fight again. And yes, a lot of people like that element that Classic WoW has because there is no level scaling. But again, there are a lot of games that have this without level scaling, and you can basically have the same experience, right?
Supposed to be there. There is also much less of a feeling of hand-holding and the game putting you on a set path. This is a big difference from many games nowadays where you almost get the impression that the developers have decided you need to know where to go and what to do.
This part is true. The majority of the games right now, at least for the first, while you get used to the game for a long time, they basically tell you what to do.
at all times, otherwise you're going to get bored and quit. Vanilla isn't afraid to leave matters up to the player in terms of where you'll go, what you'll do, how you'll build your character, the gear that you'll use, and so on. I mean, imagine a totally new player to Vanilla who's never played it before without add-ons or guides trying to find their way through the world. When the game first launched, that's what it was like for everyone. I mean, for me at least it was, I can say that. It's not that resources didn't exist.
You know, one thing that well, he's gonna talk about it, right? Or he's talking about it. But one thing that I would want to experience, although I had said that I hate leveling or whatever, I would want to experience Classic WoW when it first came out, without, like, when nobody knew where a quest was. Like, you have to go over here and do something, and nobody knew. Not even Wowhead, because nobody has done this bullshit. And you have to actually figure it out. That seems like awesome, to do it once, right? Or for the first time when everybody's doing it. Because right now, if I say, oh, I am going to play blind and I am not going to use quests or whatever, I am just an idiot, right? that is getting left behind. You can do it, but it doesn't feel the same as everyone is doing it. It has a different type of flavor. And that will never happen again, because that already happened and this shit is already figured out. And when new things come out, it was also another era of the internet, right? Right now, when things come out, people data mine this shit, people already know what to do, and developers have adapted to this and they just incorporated all of this into the game, right?
Online to find things, but my internet was so bad that each internet page would take minutes to load, and I would have rather just been playing the game during that time. The freedom to just go and do stuff has also lended it quite well to Vanilla's replayability, as we've seen through Blizzard's attempts on seasonal servers in Season of Mastery and Discovery, as well as players taking on the hardcore challenge. Overall,
in my opinion, the problem with seasonal stuff in Classic WoW is that it takes too long to level up. I know that this is a personal complaint, but that is a problem with seasonal stuff in Classic WoW. And why I don't have so much of a trouble with seasonal stuff in retail is because, first of all, seasons happen when you already have your character maxed out. Your character doesn't get reset in levels. In Classic WoW, it does happen. The season signifies that you start again from scratch. And it takes a long time to level up in Classic, so it is a pain in the ass trying again and all of that. And I believe that is why in Classic WoW the seasonal model is not as good as in a game like in retail.
Vanilla is a game that's not afraid for you to go out in the world and learn about it, and for me that's definitely been a strength. Speaking of freedom within the game and learning about it, that really brings me to my next point. Vanilla is on a surface level very simple to play, but there's a crazy amount of depth to it. I mean, for real, you can get so far in Vanilla on...
It is really simple to play, but at the same time, is there depth to how you play WoW Classic? I don't think so. WoW Classic is more a knowledge check than a skill check, right? Like knowing stuff, oh, this is over here, or this item does this. If you stand here, you can save a spot a mob or whatever, stuff like that. It is a knowledge check more than a skill check, because let's be honest, you don't even have a rotation in this shit. It is really simple to actually play and do your damage and do your stuff.
Some basic gameplay. You can be keyboard turning, clicking, the lot. And then you get to endgame raids, where many classes' rotations are about 3 buttons, and if you're a caster, you literally just stand at the back and press 1 button on repeat, and that is it. You are actually playing the game in an optimal way, because it's just that simple. But there is a near endless amount of extra things to know about Vanilla, which of course the game never tells you. Melee leeway, the 5-second rule, how to make different macros, or, you know, the entire threat mechanic, which is absolutely core to every single aspect of PvE within the game. You have no way of knowing how it works without add-ons. You don't know good leveling routes within the game, which spec to go, which items are the best, and so on. The more you dig into it, the more there is to know about Vanilla World of Warcraft. And the main point here is I feel as though
he's basically saying what I said, like, yes, it is a knowledge check. That is the depth, the knowledge check, but not actually like, oh, I am insane playing the game. Look at this, you know.
it's a game which primarily rewards game knowledge over game skill. Player ability and skill can matter, of course, in certain scenarios, such as PvP, but just knowing a lot about the game will serve you super well. And just when you feel like you know everything about Vanilla WoW, you always end up finding something else out. So that's why for me, Vanilla is simple to play but has so much depth to it, and it really becomes more noticeable the more you play. Next up is the fact that in Vanilla we have a more dangerous open world, as well as certain elite zones which can be very difficult to.
This is true. In Retail WoW, you don't care about the open world because nothing is going to kill you. You will always destroy everything. But I feel more than the comparisons he's throwing in here go more in line like comparing WoW Classic to WoW Retail. But he's talking about the entire MMO spectrum. And there has to be MMOs out there where the open world is also dangerous, right? Classic WoW is not the only game where the open world is dangerous, brother. I have to think that, right?
Solo. Fresh out your starter zone at level 6, you're probably feeling pretty confident. The mobs in starter zones move slower, they can be neutral, and they're generally pretty easy to deal with. And then you step foot in that open world and it becomes immediately apparent that you are in fact not very strong at all. Whether it's kobolds respawning in the mines in Elwyn, Defias over in Westfall, or the classic Son of Aragold death down in Silverpine, the world of Warcraft can come at you pretty fast. Most classes consider anything more than 2 mobs at once to be a serious threat in vanilla, and you'd need to use some serious cooldowns, if you even have any that is. And at times an enemy mob can just decide they're going to dodge or parry about 6 times in a row and you just lose a 1v1. And then there's mages of course who can pull a dozen things at once and AoE them down, but you know, just hero class things. But the open world is dangerous, it feels that way and it never stops being dangerous either.
Mages are for pussies. Mages are pussy bitches, brother.
Right from that moment when you leave your starter zone all the way to level 60. It's things like this that make the hardcore challenge so interesting to people. There really is a constant threat of making a fatal mistake. At the same time in vanilla, there are open world elite zones to take on too, which are often great for XP and can have some nice quest rewards too. Though you're not really supposed to take them on solo, but it can be a nice test of skill to see if you can do it. Otherwise, you do as the game intends and you naturally run into other people in the same place doing the same quest and you group up so it becomes easier. This is one of the ways that vanilla encourages you to form parties and meet other people within the world, but only if you want to do so, and I think that is quite important to remember. Next is a moment that we have all experienced, I am sure, and on each character when it happens it feels just as good as the last time. It's like a World of Warcraft graduation moment, and that's of course when you finally equip your first shoulder and helm slot items. In fact, for that matter, you don't really get neck items or rings or trinkets, and definitely not idols, librams or totems for ages either, as in the ones you equip. The difference is though, you can see your shoulder and helm items on your character, so that just makes them better, doesn't it?
That is true, brother. I remember that the first time I played this shit, I was like, when the fuck am I going to get a helmet, dude? Like, you spend a long time before getting a helmet. In other games, for example, the other game that I play a lot, Diablo 4, you get that bullshit from the start, right? And other games, well, in retail, they also give you, like, in the first leveling experience, from 1 to 10, in the Exile Reach, you get the whole set. So, yeah, it is, I remember that in Classic WoW, like, when I played in 2019, it was meaningful when I got my head on my shoulders. This is true. And now I do think he's comparing it to the whole MMO experience, because the only game that I have played that is like that is Classic WoW, for sure. In this specific aspect.
I mean, even around level 18 or so, you might run.
Now, does this make the game better? I don't know. I do know that when you get the helmet and the shoulders, it is meaningful for sure. You feel like, wow, this is awesome. But also you spend a long time without it. So I don't know if this makes the game better. I just know that this happens. We can have the conversation, like analyzing the pros and cons of this.
randomly come across a common quality pair of shoulders, but it still feels good to equip them, even though stats wise they're basically doing nothing for you. As for your helm, well, that comes quite a bit later, and for a regular character you'll be seeing that somewhere between levels 25 to 30. It's the scarcity of these items at early levels which makes dungeons such as Scarlet Monastery Armory such a big deal. It doesn't have to just be your helm or shoulder items either, just getting your first bag in vanilla feels good. There's nothing like starting your first quest within the game on a fresh character and you instantly just get a 6-slot bag in your inventory. It's the true sign of a blessed character. And even in later levels when you loot a traveler's knapsack, that just feels great as well. Even if you want to sell it, you're going to get a few gold. In a game where your inventory can fill up so fast, that matters. Which leaves us with what I feel are 3 of the most important things which make vanilla what it is. So first up, I've got something which I think can be a little bit overlooked in vanilla, but for me it's always felt really important, and that's having the feeling of going back to a major town or city after a long questing trip and restocking and sorting out your bags before you're ready to head out once again. Imagine the scenario: you've been out in Stranglethorn Vale questing for a few hours and your bags are now full of random meat, troll sweat, wild vine, and about 24 different other random items. You're starting to run low on food and water and you've gone through your health pots as well, but at the same time, for all this work, you've got a quest log which is absolutely full and completed to show. That moment when you finally head back to Booty Bay, sell all your trash, mail the good stuff to your bank vault, turn in all those quests, sort out your gear and so on, just feels so good to do. Maybe you head over to Stormwind afterwards, check the auction.
Again, this is true, it feels good, but you can do that in every game. I don't want to be like, being against every single point, but I do want to say that a lot of games do this, right? And in an ARPG, for example, PoE, Diablo, Last Epoch, going to town and sell everything and go out again is a big part of the game. Those are not MMOs, yes. They are really close. They have a lot. They share a lot of the same elements, right? And I played a little bit of New World, and in New World you do that. I am playing a lot RuneScape, and in RuneScape you do a lot of that. I go back to the Grand Exchange a lot. So, and in Retail WoW I do that. I don't think this is unique to WoW. It is a cool thing, but I don't think it is unique to WoW.
House for upgrades, get more food and water and health pots, go to your class trainer to get new skills, maybe whilst you're there a world buff drops, and hey, you're ready to...
skills from the trainer is unique to WoW for sure, for Classic.
Go, bags clean, gear repaired, to head back out there and get stuck into the world once again with a fresh set of quests to work on. Those moments when you pause to just sort things out, for me, add so much to the game, and it's something that everybody does. It also encourages that planning aspect of vanilla in terms of what quests will I do now, where do I want to go next, and so on. So for me, this whole ritual everyone does just adds a bunch to the game. And number 2 is something which I feel as though ties a number of points that I've gone over together, and that's the fact that in vanilla, leveling feels important. And it feels as though it has as much or even more.
It is important. In WoW Classic, leveling is important, but I fucking hate it. And I know that this is me. When I say this, I know this is an unpopular opinion. I know that people disagree with me because Classic players like leveling. That is the coolest part of Classic for them. I think it's boring. I hate it. I deal with it because you have to do it to get to the part that I actually like. In fact, I start not hating leveling when I get to level 50 because you can start spamming dungeons, high level dungeons, to get your pre-beast or your pre-raid gear. And then I start not hating the game. I am still leveling, but I am doing stuff that I like, which is spamming dungeons to get some cool items. So at that part, that is cool. But this right here that I am doing, like killing these fucking mobs just to get some levels, this sucks dick. And you have to do this bullshit for a long time before getting to the cool part. And I hate it, dude. I hate it. But I know again that I am in the minority and a lot of people like it. I am not saying that it is bad because I know that people like it. I am saying that I don't like it.
times importance than the end game. In future expansions, Blizzard started accelerating leveling a lot to get you caught up with the current expansion and into the new content.
Where did all these motherfuckers came from? Look at this, bro. I was just going around, dude.
As well as the end game. This started as early as midway through TBC, when Blizzard went back and reduced the amount of experience needed between 20 and 60, as well as making some of those iconic open world elite zones non-elite anymore. In Wrath, they further squished XP, added heirlooms and the LFD, and, well, things just really went from there. Of course, by WoW's current expansion, you can't expect a new player to be spending 100 hours in vanilla and the same amount on each subsequent expansion, so I get why things were sped up over time, but in vanilla the world was the main character. Blizzard themselves have even said as much. And your character's progression, power gain and growth over that journey is part of what's given vanilla such longevity over the years, to the point where people are still hyped about going again on a fresh character to this day. Which means that number one, the most important thing which makes vanilla vanilla for me is, well, something no expansion can ever do, because it's the fact that vanilla is not an expansion. When you start here, you start at level 1 with nothing in your bags, barely any gear, and it's a new adventure every single time. I mean,
brother, I just tried to interrupt this motherfucker like retail brain rot. I always have my interrupting my F1 key, and I was spamming F1 to try to interrupt this motherfucker. I don't have the kick, dude. That is retail brain rot trying to interrupt that dude. But what he's saying is true, by the way. The world thing, I don't think he's going to mention this, but something that I think retail does, not retail, classic does great, that retail sucks at, and I think it is so awesome in classic, is that you are not the main character. That is so cool, brother. You don't matter in classic WoW. You are just a dude doing random stuff, and you help do the things, right? With the, oh, let's kill Onyxia. The Horde and the Alliance goes there, right? But in retail, you are the champion. You are the hero. You are the main character over there. I think that sucks. I think it was better not being the main character and let the cool characters in WoW, the Illidans, the Arthas, to be the main characters. I think that was cooler, and classic WoW was like that. So that is an aspect that I am going to mention that in my opinion makes classic WoW special, that I don't think he's going to mention, but what he's saying right now about the world goes line in line. It is like a parallel to that, right?
Sure, if you played the game a lot before, you can mail yourself gear, you can boost and so on, but that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. Every single player starts off in the same way in vanilla as the humble adventurer. You're a small person in a very big world, delivering letters, solving small problems, and eventually you're led to doing great things towards the endgame of WoW. I mean, if you just stop and think for a moment, when's the first time you actually fight a full-grown dragon in World of Warcraft? Sure, you've got the whelplings over in the wetlands, there's drakes in Badlands, but a fully grown dragon, that's properly endgame material, such as the Green Dragon world bosses or Veilstraz the Corrupt in BWL. When expansions started, the old world felt as though it changed from the main character of the game to just an obstacle which you needed to overcome so that you could progress onto expansions and the new content as soon as possible. And when you were starting on an expansion, your character was already quite powerful with all your gear and abilities, and you just went from there. But that is not the case for vanilla, and I think ultimately having that progression path from 1 to 60 in a cohesive world is something that truly makes vanilla the game that it is. And that's it, 10 things which I think have proven their worth over the years in vanilla World of Warcraft, and have made it to this day still one of the most popular MMOs in the world. Would you replace any of these points, and is there anything else which you think?
The one that I think it is important is the one that I said, that you are not the main character. And there are stuff in there that are not unique to vanilla WoW, like the going to town. But yes, I do agree with everything else. And I do think that there is something about classic WoW that makes people, motherfucker, I hate this fucking game, dude. There is something cool about classic WoW because people are going back to it time and time again, and nostalgia is not enough to do that, brother. Brother, look at where they throw me, dude. This is too far away, motherfucker. What are you doing to me? There has to be something cool about this fucking game if people are going back to it time and time again, right? Nostalgia alone can't drive this shit all that much, right? So yes, brother Willie, this was a cool video. As always, I have watched Willie's videos before, not only for the channel, but also just to watch them off a stream. And he makes cool videos, so thank you very much for this video, my dude.